Hey guys, Darrick here, and tonight I want to give you an introduction into one of Align's latest projects, the RCC 300 battery charger. This product marks Align's first series contender into the high-power battery charger market. And in this video I want to give you a quick overview of some of the charging capabilities, discharging features, and some of the programming options this charger affords. So without further ado, let's get into the video. One of the first things I like to go over is what's included in the box. So when you first open the box, the first thing you'll notice, of course, is the RCC 300 charger itself. It's fairly compact. Just for a size comparison here, I have an old 3-cell 2250 pack. So it's about the same height as that, a little bit taller, and about as wide as a 2200 3-cell battery. So very compact, one of the smaller chargers that I've ever owned. Also included here is your balance board, which accepts up to a 6-cell lithium polymer battery using a JST XH type connector. Also included is an XT60 input lead. So if we look at the side of the charger here, your power supply connects to this DC input connector here, which is an XT60 male. So we're going to plug the female lead into the male. And then you have your balance connectors, or excuse me, your banana port plug connectors to go to your power supply. So very easy to connect your charger to whatever power supply or charging box you might have set up. Also included is a XT60 charge cable. So for those of you that are flying FPV, many of you are using XT60 connectors, so you get a free charge cable included with the charger, which is really nice. And of course we have a stylus here because the RCC 300 is a touchscreen charger. So all of the programming functions, charging functions, and everything is programmed using a touchscreen. There's no buttons on the charger. So I've gone ahead and booted up the charger to my power supply here. And you can see the first menu we're presented with is the lithium polymer program select screen. So the two arrow keys here will let you scroll through the various battery program and setup options that the charger has to offer. At the bottom of the screen we have our charge, discharge, and storage charge sub-menus for the lithium polymer battery program select here. So before I get into these, I want to go ahead and just show you the different main parameters. So we have lithium polymer batteries. We have the lithium ion program setup menu here. We have our lithium iron, our lithium high voltage, our nickel metal hydride, NiCad, our battery forming menu, which lets us repair old nickel metal hydride or NiCad batteries, our lead acid battery program, a power menu, which lets you set a particular DC voltage setting to the output jack of the charger here and use it to power another DC device. We have our setup menu here, which has some of the charger's user setup functions. We have our view menu here, which if I had a battery plugged in would allow us to view some of the battery parameters such as its current voltage, internal resistance, cell voltage, and that sort of thing. And we have our memory menu here, which stores each of the battery program profiles that we've saved to the memory. And if we go one more time, we have our lithium polymer screen again. So those are the main menus that the charger has. Now that we've reviewed the main charger menus, I'd like to go ahead and show you each of the sub-menus here for a lithium polymer battery, which is the most common battery used in RC today. So if we click on charge here, we can see some of the parameters you'd use to set up your charge profile for your lithium polymer battery. So we have our pack voltage, our capacity, our current, which is our charge current, our end voltage state, which is 4.2 volts per cell for your typical lithium polymer battery. And we also have the charge mode, which is balance, which means we're going to balance the battery as we're charging it. You can adjust each of these parameters simply by clicking on the appropriate one and using these two arrows to scroll up or down to change the settings, whether it be for the pack voltage, the capacity, or the current here. You can also adjust the end voltage or the charge mode, but I do not recommend changing these values, as I think the balance mode in 4.2 volts per cell is going to cover 99% of your charge needs out there. So those are the main charge submenu functions. So the next screen we'd like to look at is the discharge screen. So if I go ahead and hit discharge, we're presented again with our pack voltage, capacity, desired discharge current, and desired end voltage state. So once again, you can change any one of these parameters you'd like. The charger has up to 30 watts of self-discharging power available, so depending on what your pack voltage is and your desired discharge current, you can adjust that appropriately. Finally, I'd like to take a look at the storage charge parameters in the charger here. So if we click on storage charge, once again we have our pack voltage, our pack capacity, our desired storage charge current, as well as the end voltage state per cell. And in this case, the default setting is about 3.7 volts per cell. I typically prefer to storage charge to 3.85 volts per cell. That seems to be the most common recommended end voltage state for storage charging your batteries. So, but you are free to adjust any of these parameters once again to your desired settings. So now that we've gone ahead and discussed each of the submenus, I'd like to show you how to set up and run a charge program for a lithium polymer battery. So I have here one of my Thunder Power Adrenaline packs. This is a 4-cell 1300 milliamp hour pack used from one of my FPV racers. So if I go ahead and connect the main XT60 connector to the battery pack and the 4-cell balance plug to the respective 4-cell plug on our balance board here, we can then begin writing our program. So from here, I'm going to click on charge. Now the pack voltage here is set already to 4-cell 14.8 volts, which is a 4-cell battery's resting voltage. We also have our battery capacity, which is 1300 milliamp hours in my case. And I have the charge current currently set at 1.3 amps, which would be a 1C charge rate for this particular battery. As I stated previously, I am not going to change the end voltage or the charge mode, as these settings are going to work for most people, myself included here. So once we have all these parameters set how we'd like them, all we need to do is simply press and hold the enter key for 2 seconds. You'll hear it chime, and the charger will begin charging. Okay, so we're in the charge menu here, and there's a few parameters I want to go over. So at the top we have our timer, which is the elapsed time the charge has been going. We have our capacity, which is the number of milliamps that have been put back into the battery. We have our charge current displayed. We have our pack voltage displayed. The overall battery resistance is displayed here as well. And we also have the external temperature, which if I had the sensor plugged into the side port and attached to the battery, would give us a temperature reading. Further, if we click on the arrow up top here, we can see the input voltage that is going into the charger at the moment. So I have 22.93 volts since I'm powering this using a battery actually. We have our end voltage, which is 16.8 volts for this particular pack since it is a 4-cell battery. We have the internal charger temperature at 21 degrees C. We have the safety timer currently set at 240 minutes, which is about 4 hours. If we're charging for that long, we have a definite problem with our battery pack. And we also have our capacity cutoff, which in this case is the maximum capacity this battery can accept, which is 1300 milliamps. If the charger exceeds this, it will automatically stop the charge in order to protect your battery from being overcharged. Also, we have a graph here which will plot the battery voltage versus time. So you should see a nice slow linear increase as the charge goes on. We also have our unit menu here, which will allow you to view the voltage in every cell of the battery. Since I have a 4-cell pack hooked up here, we can see that 4 of the cells have a voltage and 2 of them are empty. And that concludes all of the parameters you can see from the charge screen. The process to storage charging or discharging a battery is the same as charging it. You simply pick the appropriate menu from our main LiPo program select screen here. In my case, let's do a storage charge. You would then dial in your particular parameters. So 4-cell battery, I would adjust my capacity down to approximately 1300 milliamps, which if I push and hold this arrow key will make it scroll a little bit faster. Overshot a little bit. And then we can also select our discharge current. The next thing I'd like to go over in this video are the user adjustable settings for the RCC 300 battery charger. So from the main screen here, we're going to scroll back using the left arrow key until we get to the setup screen, and we're going to hit setup. And we can see here the different parameters we can adjust. The first one is the pre-charge time, which by default is set to off. And this feature allows you to recover a over-discharged battery that is outside of its normal safe operating voltage. So if you over-discharge one of your battery packs, you could turn this parameter on and adjust the amount of time you want to allow the charger to try to recover that battery pack, up to 10 minutes. The next parameter here is the temperature mode, which simply changes the units displayed in the charger screen. By default, we are on degrees C, but you can also change this to degrees Fahrenheit if you prefer. The next parameter is the temperature cutoff mode, which if we had the temperature sensor plugged in and hooked up to our battery, would allow us to set a temperature cutoff for a particular program. And this would be the overall limiting cutoff mode. Most of the time we don't use this when charging lithium polymer batteries, so I'm just going to leave this at the default setting. The next parameter is the input cutoff setting. So this would cut off the charge if your input voltage dipped below 11 volts. We could adjust this parameter up if we chose. I'm going to leave it at default. The parameter here, input limited, is by default set to auto. This would let you restrict the amount of current that the charger was capable of running at, so it will auto detect it by default, but you could hard set a current limit if you so chose. I'm going to leave this on auto for now. If we use this arrow key up here, we can scroll to the next set of screens. On the next screen here, we have our safety timer. This is currently set to 240 minutes, which is the default setting. So if we exceed this time, the charger will stop whatever it is doing, whether it's charging or discharging, if your particular program exceeded this amount of time. Our next parameter here is the backlight setting. Then we have a few different menus here pertaining to the chimes used during the menu functions here. So I'm going to leave all of that turned on for now. In the third menu here, we have some of the advanced balancing and discharge mode settings available in the charger. For most users, you won't have to adjust either of these. I would just leave these at the default settings. On the last screen here, we have our factory reset menu. We have our username settings, and we have our regenerative discharge settings. Regenerative discharging can be used to very quickly discharge a lithium polymer battery, for instance, into a lead acid battery that's connected to the input side of the charger here. Similarly, you could connect it to a large resistor power bank in order to rapidly discharge your batteries. This feature is a bit of an advanced user feature, and we may do another video in the future demonstrating it. But for now, I'm just going to point out that these settings are available in here. So if you'd like to try to use the regenerative discharge function, this is where you would set up the parameters for it. In this next part of the video, I'd like to show you how to save a battery program into the memory slot of the charger. So in this case, I'm going to use a lithium polymer battery as an example once again. We're going to go into the charge menu here, and let's say I want to save a program for my 4-cell 1300 Thunder Power battery that we looked at earlier today. I'm going to go to the pack voltage, which currently is at 6S, and we're going to set that to 4-cell. I'm then going to adjust my capacity down to 1300 milliamps. Overshot it slightly. Just adjust that back. And I want to set my charge current to a 2C charge rate. So we're going to set this to 2.6 amps. And I'm going to leave the end voltage and charge mode at the default settings because I want to use a balance type charge program, and I also want my end voltage to be 4.2 volts per cell. Now from here I'm going to hit enter once and then escape back out to the main menu. We're then going to use the left arrow to scroll to the memory screen, and then we can click on it and enter it. And you'll see I have a few different programs in here already, but I'm going to choose one of the empty slots indicated by the null. We have up to 20 available program slots in the charger, just as a heads up, but I'm going to choose slot 4, and then we're going to click on save. And you can see here LiPo 4-cell charge current 2.6 amps has saved into the memory of the charger now. So if I were to boot up the charger from this main screen, I could go to my memory, go into that menu and I could pick any program I want and simply hit load. For instance, a 1-cell storage charge program that I have here. If I click on load, it will automatically take me to the storage charge menu, or I can simply plug in the battery into my balance board or input lead here and then press and hold enter to start that particular program that I had saved in. To show you the view menu that the RCC 300 charger has. So I'm going to go ahead and plug in my battery pack here, both the main XT60 connector as well as the balance plug here. And then from the main screen we're going to scroll back until we get to the view menu, which is this one right here. I'm going to click on view, and from here we'll be able to see some of the battery's parameters. We can see our DC input voltage, which is 23 volts. We can see the voltage of the battery itself, which is 15.53 volts at the moment. The charger internal temperature is displayed, as well as the external temperature if I had that sensor plugged in. And we can also see the overall pack resistance, which is 43 milliohms. If we click on unit here, we can see the individual cell voltages just from this screen. Backing out of the menu, we also have a balance feature here. So in this case, I could balance charge this battery if I'd like to, simply by choosing the appropriate battery type, in my case LiPo, and then pressing the start button. In this part of the video, I'd like to go over the power screen. And this feature is a bit unique to the Align chargers. It basically allows you to set the output sockets of the charger to a fixed DC voltage in order to power another device. For instance, a lot of the FPV guys I've seen use this portable soldering iron that usually has a 3-cell LiPo battery attached to it. Potentially you could come up with a banana plug lead that would plug into the charger. You could adjust the voltage here to a 3-cell battery voltage, for instance 12.4 volts, and then you could use this charger to power that device for some extensive field soldering. In order to adjust the voltage, we'd go into our setup menu here, and we're able to adjust the voltage anywhere from 5 volts up to 25 volts DC. And we could, if we wanted to, also limit the amount of current available if you so chose. The charger will provide up to 300 watts of power in this mode, just like it would in the charge mode. Once you have your desired output voltage set, you would simply press and hold the start key here, and the charger would enter its power regulation mode, and we could see a live display of the wattage being drawn from the charger as well as the current being drawn. And similarly, you can see that my 12 volt setting that I had here is displayed. There's also a graph available to plot the amount of current drawn over time if you wanted to monitor that as well. And that is the power menu of the RCC 300 charger.